To the next test, we're going to do the double header, the second leg of the Scotland-Georgia fixtures.
Yes.
Obviously, the first one we will have to review that in the context of this preview, but this one's going to be played also on Friday at 7:30 p.m. Irish time in Murrayfield, and it's going to be reffed by Roman Poit.
Who's happy he's not working on Friday? This guy. Yes.
So you'll get to watch. There is a fair bit of rugby happening this Friday, actually. Three games on,
including that previous one.
But just looking back on Tbilisi's events, obviously Scotland last week became the first Tier 1 nation to go travel to the Lions Den in Tbilisi and give the Lalos a game and a hit out there. And they didn't sleep on them. They picked Greg Laidlaw, Finn Russell. They got Johnson back in there. Pretty much looked like their strongest squad or strongest team.
The three-quarter line with ball in hand in that game from Scotland were outstanding, and in particular Finn Russell was just outstanding. And they caught the Georgians off guard completely. The Georgians couldn't and didn't seem to attempt to try and slow up the ball, which was crucial. And then their defence around the corner, they just had never faced anything really like what that Scotland offence can bring. And they weren't able to put it under any kind of pressure. And then Scotland just tore them open time and time again. Finn Russell was outstanding. He is a beautiful attacking footballer.
It was a great recognition on Scotland's part, and on Gregor Townsend's part. He has to get a lot of credit for it. It was a recognition of their strengths and Georgia's strengths and how to make the game work for them. And really, like, those first 20 minutes were what killed the game. Like, obviously, they were 20 points up after that 20-minute period, and we've said about Georgia before, they're front runners. Ideally, they can't really chase games, and it was just game over from then. They got blitzkrieged,
but then they did keep getting their fair share of tries as the game went on. They maintained a sense of ruthlessness. They kept Finn Russell on until about 70 minutes.
Gave him a lot of minutes, which was like potentially risky.
He was enjoying himself.
And also you were very much seeing the lack of a seven, their seven from Georgia. Like there was no sense of upsetting the offensive breakdown of Scotland or harassing the 10, which are both jobs you would associate with a number 7.
Indeed, and there were loads of areas that Georgia were. I thought from Scotland's perspective again, I just thought Willem Nel at tight head had a massive
huge game,
and actually the first 3 scrums he really struggled on, got pinned in 2 of them, and was lucky not to be in the other one. But he really was up for the fight and was showing it in the loose, and ended up turning it around and getting a penalty of his own, and even making the Georgians second guess about taking scrums near the line. Such was his proficiency in that area. He is an extremely important player to this Scotland team.
He's vital. He's the man you can back to keep a
without him,
go against a tier 1 scrum. Because otherwise they are melted and mulched.
But with him, they're damn confident.
I
mean, the turnaround from the first game against France without him to the second game with him was mighty impressive. And then to go into, like, you talk about Tbilisi being a Lion's Den, it really is if you're a tight head prop forward.
Exactly.
And
like
he stood up.
They are literally elite in they're not elite in any other areas apart from scrum, where they genuinely do stack up against tier 1
sort
opposition.
Of wrestling. After the contact wrestling, like their position and spacing is very often haywire, but as soon as the contact happens, they show how good they are. I mean, that's when you see the benefits of all that tire lifting they do.
They're freaky strong,
incredibly strong. They're all wrestlers, so it's like you actually manage to prise into a hole, and then as soon as they get a hold on you, the contact becomes a negative one. So it's just about making sure the contact is happening on your terms, where you want it, and that's Scotland were great at doing that. I'm just on from Georgia's perspective. It's obviously massively disappointing, the showing that ended up being. It was a matter of just not on this level, boys, and that was really what the message was. And to be fair, it was thoroughly deserved. Scotland really played a very smart game. Really did take it to the Georgians in the areas that they knew they could test. But from Georgia's perspective, things like their exit play, just some of their endeavour in the middle of the park. Was not really where it should have been. They like to set up camp and go through phases and slowly do so, but just there was no real creativity in how they moved themselves around the pitch. Their defensive line speed isn't really all there. It should be. They should be pressing up and getting in the face a bit more and pressuring the Scots, which they didn't. But also, they are really suffering for, and it's something I've been thinking, like literally this whole World Cup cycle, thinking like Georgia really could compete. Like they have the strength, they have the scrum. If they can get things like line out and maul drive going, they can definitely compete. But one thing they just haven't found in this 4 years is an elite 10, or at least a really good 10. A smart kicking option.
They have Lobzanidze, who's
And Matiashvili at fullback,
yes.
but they don't play him into it enough. They don't use his left boot enough. They use him to kick long
slow
kicks.
If it has to go 3 passes to get out to him, their positioning and their depth, their spacing in general is pretty poor, and then their passing is a little slow and inaccurate. Like there was one moment in the game at the weekend where there was a try on, and then they were a bit laboured in getting from right side of the pitch to the left, and then ended up forcing a pass and out it went into touch.
They were definitely shocked, and that result will hurt them, but it'll help them in the long run. But for this World Cup cycle, I think it'll hurt them.
It is, but it is what's concerning for me. Just to wrap up on Georgia before you go on, is between that game, which was probably one of the biggest things ever in their home game, and then the Italy game last year. While you're right in saying good lessons learned for them,
they need more of those games. They do. They don't get enough games against tier 1 teams, and it's going to take a few of them to learn to develop their game a bit more.
Yeah, but it's making me fearful for their World Cup hopes in what is the pool of death with some other class teams.
In terms of this week's upcoming game for Scotland and Georgia, in terms of what Scotland are looking to get out of it, I'm curious just to see whether there's sort of a risk element in terms of their selection. I know we won't harp too much on selection because we don't have the team sheet, but if they go for Finn or if they go for Hastings matters. Finn, you would feel, has everything he needs to have out of this warm-ups. But there is a risk involved. If you drop Finn, if you drop Nell, if you drop Johnson, that things could get a little stuttery. The Georgians still have their ways about them, and it would be a risk to take off your tight head and your 10, just given how green in the gills Adam Hastings has looked at virtually every turn when he's been in a Scotland jersey.
True. And
how wily the Georgians can be. I mean, Scotland are going to want a big win here. They're going to want the nice Murrayfield send-off to go into the World Cup after that initial horrendous performance in Lyon against France.
It's all been positive since
feeling quite positive. So that's going to be what they're looking for the game. From Georgia's point of view, you were sort of touching on a lot of it there, but I think there's a whole load of cramming that they have to do in terms of getting right for the World Cup. I think one key area, you touched on their line speed, it definitely does need to improve, but the most important thing is just they're not committing any numbers to rucks, and they need to actively change that mindset. It works for some teams, the All Blacks and Wales, when you can spread across the pitch. But you can't, you're not used to playing at this kind of pace. You're going to be playing against teams who are helter-skelter.
You're also not bringing an aggressive blitz at the moment either. So
I know, I appreciate the blitz point, but I actually think more important is the breakdown area. They are excellent wrestlers, naturally. They need to get into the breakdown. They need to be disruptive. They need to make every ball slow. They need to make ball carriers who you're tackling fall on the wrong side and make it slow and Georgian. They know how to make the game slow when they have the ball. They need to learn how to make it slow when the opposition has the ball.
That's against Wales, against Fiji, and against Australia, and even potentially against Uruguay, who can get things off. If you're allowing them to get 2-second rucks off in sequence, they're not going to defend them.
No, it's not good. It's not good, exactly, and that's the area that they need to improve on. They just need to be able to slow teams down. And then in terms of their line-out drive, which is going to be vital to them, they did go to it a lot. It is quite competent when it gets formed, but it's also too slow, and it needs to be smoother. The transition from line-out to maul needs to be much smoother.
Yeah, for sure. I like that their instinct, more so than some other tier 2 teams who get sloppy and get caught with the ball in the middle of the maul. They tend to be good at getting it to the back, but they are, you're right, just a little bit slow in everything that they do.
Yeah, they like the security of possession, and there's merit to it as well. They'll throw to 2 and make sure the ball is at the back, and then we start pushing. But teams are just going to be
they'll need a bit more endeavour than that, though, to get offensive line-out mauls off. Can't go to 2 every time.
No, I appreciate that.
That was something they got wrong last weekend. They literally, whenever they tried to maul, they just jumped to 2. And Scotland are a very disciplined team in terms of how they line up on defence. They're in a Six Nations tournament where they're up against bigger packs pretty much every game, with the exception of the Italy one. So they're pretty wily in their maul defence, as they have to be. So jumping at 2 all day long just is telegraphed and makes it too easy for a top tier side like Scotland. It's a good lesson for them, because it is they are.
It's the kind of thing that just is a try against Spain or Romania or Russia every time.
Well, this is what the point was. They were unbeaten in Tbilisi for 3 years, wasn't it? But going into this game, and it's they haven't played an opposition that they weren't ranked above in that time. So it's in that stadium. So it's important that they get more games like this. It's full credit to Scotland for going out there, and full credit to Gregor Townsend and Finn Russell and everyone who performed on the day for getting out of what could have been a sticky banana skin one, could have been a knee-knocking, confidence-shaking one, but as it turned out was actually a really creditable thing that they did, and they did it very, very well. They played a perfect game.
Tremendously impressed with Scotland. And just one other area that Georgia, I think, need to work on ahead of this game. So many work-ons for them. This is why it's a case of cramming. But with ball in hand, they were quite slow and stuttery, and I have seen them not be that, like in terms of game plans and everything else from where they were at in Rugby Europe. Granted, not facing the same physicality or line speed, but they did move the ball across the pitch. They did vary who was kicking the ball for them, and they need to be braver. They need to be braver. They need to try and get the ball quicker. They're big men who are winning contacts. They need to get the hands free and get on each other's shoulder and get offloads going in that tight area. And then when they get a bit of momentum, use it quick. Even if you're going narrow, use it quick. And in terms of their exit plays, granted, Sutskaridze was a huge part of that, having him and the wide channels rampaging, but Beko Gorgodze could fill that role. They need to spread it across the pitch.
Just a bit more courage in what they're going
exactly,
for.
Exactly. Back themselves to spread it across the pitch. Practice it in training. You're going to need to be able to pass the ball and move it around. And then when you get into the opposition half, do what you do. When you get into their 22, that's when the very interesting Georgian picture, which they created for a period in that Scottish game. They were already 30 points down at the time.
The problem,
but they did create like a period where they were in that Scottish 22, just sucking the oxygen out of a team. And if they can do that early in a game to anybody, especially the likes of Fiji, they could soak the energy out of them.
They could.
And that's the game plan, but they have to figure out a way to get from in their own half to down the field, and it's just not good enough to be slow and stuttery and then with loose box kicks from Lobsanidze. That's not the way to do it.
Also, it's important for them that they don't start as sluggishly and as slowly as they did both against Scotland and against the Southern Kings 5 days previously as well. They got blitzkrieged in the first 20 minutes in both of those games, and as we've said before, they are not chasers of a game. They are front runners who need to be dictating tempo and controlling the ball and frustrating teams. So like against attacking minded teams, which Scotland obviously are, but their whole group is as well, like even down as far as Uruguay, all of these teams that they're going to up against want to throw the ball around and play a quick game. They need to get better at slowing that down. Otherwise, they could be enough for a long World Cup, because it hasn't really gone their way in terms of their preparations. I think Georgia's preparations have been a bit stuttery, very disappointing with Sutskaridze obviously gone out. But and now Gorgodze coming back in is an interesting one. We may see him this weekend.
I hope we do see him in Murrayfield.
But they need to basically get more aggressive when they don't have the ball, and more recognise that what they need to make happen and what they can't allow to happen. Because they seem to be a bit slow on the uptake when the game's getting away from them in the first even 5 minutes, and they can cough up tries, and that really is an impasse for them, because the way they want to play the game is not going to lend itself to that.
They're playing Scotland. Scotland will be ruthless again if they get ahead of steam up. They will be ruthless. They'll take the scores.
Definitely.
And likewise their pool opponents. So are we saying Scotland to round it off in style in Murrayfield?
I think so.
Murrayfield's
I do.
A tough place to go.
Murrayfield's a tough place to go if you're England.
The All Blacks struggled the last time they went there.
So I'm fearful for the Georgians actually with each passing day. I've been very optimistic for their chances for the last 4 years. I just think it's not probably coming good. The picture I'm seeing at the moment is not great, and just like if they were in any other pool, I'd still give them their fair shake. But it's the fact that they're up against like Fiji as their tier 2 opposition. If there's a real chance of them finishing 4th and missing out on the qualification,
which would be a disaster.
And then there's an outside chance of them like being rocked for confidence and then slipping up against Uruguay. I think they're even more disastrous.
I admire Uruguay. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell. I think Spain did a tour of Uruguay and Brazil and put it up to them. And Spain are so far from Georgia's level.
It's true.
Uruguay are just going to be shocked by Georgia's physicality. They're going to be shocked by everything they see in this World Cup. I like them a lot, but they're going to be shocked.
I'd imagine that's true. That's why I'm saying it's a very outside chance.
Very outside.
It's good.
It's significantly less likely that Uruguay beat Georgia than Georgia beat Fiji.
Yeah, probably.
100%.
Yeah. But yes, all that being said, we do want to see signs of improvement in those areas from Georgia, and also Scotland are just riding momentum at the moment and really are taking a lot into the World Cup. So it would be nice for us if Georgia could shock them and maybe make it all physical and slow.
There is a debate about whether they want to see if another tight head can stand up to the Georgians, or just be protective of the result and give Nell another shout. But I suspect the Georgian scrum will come firing if nothing else does.
I'd say naming Nell on the bench is probably wise.
Yeah, probably.
You don't want him getting injured at this juncture. Same with Finn.
Yeah, on the bench as well.
Bring him in as the emergency Finn button.
Break glass
in case of Georgian maul tries. And, yes, all that kind of stuff. But it's a risk in picking things like especially really both of those players, Nell and Finn. They're two irreplaceables for the challenges to come. So there's a risk going up against Georgia and getting lumps taken out of you the week or 2 weeks before.
Always.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I suppose we'll move on. Yeah. You didn't get a prediction there, but I'd imagine you're saying Scotland.
I said Scotland. Yeah, Scotland. Comfortably.
Yeah, I
hopefully the Georgians stand up, but probably not.
We just want to see signs of improvement from them for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment as well, because we enjoy the chat and conversation.